I was cleaning my boss's son's house. When someone sat on the sofa behind me, there was only one problem. There was nobody there. I've never been one to believe in these things. Never been the type of person to be swayed by strange stories or supernatural explanations. I've always been practical, down to earth, one of those people who look for logic in everything, even when things seem confusing or out of the ordinary. But there are experiences that simply shatter any attempt at rationality, experiences that leave no room for explanation, and what happened that day was exactly like that. It wasn't just strange, it wasn't just uncomfortable, it was something that completely changed the way I saw certain places. Because there are environments that seem empty at first glance, they just seem silent, abandoned, ordinary, but they aren't. And the worst part is that you only realize this when you're already inside, when it's too late to simply ignore it and leave as if nothing had happened. Back then, I worked at a sawmill in the interior of Mato Grosso, a completely isolated place, surrounded by dense forest, dirt roads, and a silence that wasn't natural, a silence that didn't just represent the absence of sound, but the presence of something difficult to explain. Because during the day, with the constant noise of the machines, everything seemed normal, even safe, like any other heavy work environment. But as soon as the workday ended, as soon as the last engine was turned off, the scene changed completely. The sound disappeared, the people left, and what remained wasn't just silence. It was something denser, heavier, something that seemed to occupy the space, as if the place itself breathed differently when it was empty. And in the middle of that scene there was a house, a huge mansion, completely out of context, too big, too well built, too luxurious to be in the middle of such an isolated place, as if it had been placed there without taking into account what existed around it. And that alone caused a strange feeling, because it didn't seem to belong to that environment. It was about 2 kilometers from the sawmill, hidden in the middle of the woods, and the path to it was enough to cause discomfort because the trees closed in on the road, forming a dark tunnel even during the day, blocking the sunlight and muffling any sound. There were no birds, no wind, absolutely nothing. It was like crossing an invisible boundary, as if you were entering a place that shouldn't exist. The most unsettling thing of all was the fact that nobody lived in that house, never had, and yet it was used every weekend, always by someone important, the manager, the boss, sometimes guests. They would spend a day or two there and leave, as if it were just a temporary refuge, but they always left everything messy, as if they didn't care about the place, or perhaps as if they didn't want to stay there for long. And the ones responsible for cleaning everything were always me and a friend, always the two of us, never anyone else. And that wasn't a coincidence, it was the rule. The foreman made that very clear, in a tone that left no room for discussion. Only the two of us could enter that house, and he never explained why. And as strange as that was, we never questioned it. Perhaps because, deep down, we already felt that something was wrong there, something we didn't want to understand. On that particular day, the weather had been different since early on. The sky was completely grey, heavy, still, as if the whole world was waiting for something to happen. And when we got home, the drive seemed longer than usual. The silence inside the car was uncomfortable, almost suffocating, and my friend kept looking out the window, restless, until at a certain point she said, almost whispering, that things were strange. I didn't answer, but I completely agreed, because the feeling was exactly the same for me, a mixture of discomfort with something I couldn't explain. When the house appeared among the trees, I immediately felt a tightness in my chest, strong, sudden, like a clear warning that something wasn't right, as if something inside me was trying to stop me from continuing. My friend felt it too. She stopped even before getting out of the car and stood there for a few seconds looking at the house, as if trying to identify exactly what was wrong. But it wasn't something visible. It was a feeling, a presence. The house seemed darker than usual, heavier, as if there was something inside, something that couldn't be seen but could be felt. The door was unlocked, as always, and when I pushed and she opened it, that smell came immediately. It wasn't mold, It wasn't dirt, it was a strange smell, a smell of a stagnant place, of accumulated time, of a space. It was never truly occupied, but it was also never empty. And when we entered, the silence inside seemed even more intense, as if the sound were absorbed by the walls, as if any noise was muffled before. It even spread, and even breathing seemed too loud, too out of place, as if it weren't welcome in that environment. My friend went straight to the suite, as she always did. She never liked being in the living room, and that day it seemed more like instinct than choice. While I was responsible for the kitchen first, and then the living room, trying to ignore that constant feeling of discomfort, trying to focus on work so as not to overthink, until I arrived in the living room and came face to face with the sofa, a huge black leatherette sofa with that characteristic shine. And I never liked that sofa. I never managed to explain why, but there was always something about it that bothered me deeply, as if it were more than just an object. I started cleaning the TV stand, my back to it, trying to ignore that feeling, and for a few moments everything seemed normal. The sound of the cloth passing, the slight echo of my movements, until I felt a cold, very cold breeze slowly passing over my neck and down my back, making my whole body shiver immediately, and I stopped, looking at the open door, hoping to see some sign of wind, some movement outside, but there was nothing, absolutely nothing. The trees were completely still, the outside environment as still as the inside, and it didn't make sense. But even so, I tried to ignore it. I went back to cleaning, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination. That's when I heard the sound, that unmistakable creaking of the leather, slow, heavy, the exact sound of someone throwing themselves onto the sofa, and my heart raced instantly, because it wasn't just any noise, it was too specific, too clear, and I turned around immediately, expecting to see my friend there. But there was no one. The room was completely empty, and yet the sofa wasn't there, because in the middle of it there was a mark, sunken, perfect, as if someone had been sitting there at that exact moment, as if the weight of a body had been pressing into the material, and that was impossible to ignore, impossible to explain. I stood there staring at it, trying to understand, trying to find any logic, but there was none. And at that instant, at that exact moment, I was certain of something that has never left my mind since. I wasn't alone. I called my friend, and she took a long time to answer, too long for something so simple. And when she finally appeared at the door, her gaze went straight to the sofa, without me needing to point, without me needing to explain, and she saw it, and in that same instant she froze, her face losing color, her body becoming immobile, and when she finally spoke, her voice came out low, faltering. "You see this, right?" I said yes, trying to stay calm, but deep down I already knew that this wasn't normal, and then she said something that changed everything. "There's someone there." It wasn't doubt, it was certainty, and before I could react, she ran out, went into the room and locked the door, leaving me alone there, alone with that heavy silence that seemed to grow every second. And I looked at the sofa again, hoping the mark had disappeared, but no, it was still there, perfect, motionless, as if it were waiting for something. And it was at that moment that something inside me changed. It wasn't courage, it wasn't bravery, it was a strange irritation, as if I were being challenged in that space. And without thinking much, I spoke aloud, almost provocatively. "Are you going to stay sitting there, or are you going to help?" The exact moment I finished speaking, the atmosphere changed completely. The air became colder, heavier, denser, as if something had reacted to it, and then the sound returned, the creaking of the leather. But this time, it wasn't someone sitting down, it was someone moving. The mark on the sofa began to change slowly, as if something invisible was adjusting its position, as if it were responding, as if it were conscious. And at that moment, there was no more doubt. It wasn't my imagination, it was there. And worse, it knew that I was there too. After that day, nothing went back to normal, because the house stopped seeming like just a strange place and began to convey something much clearer, much more present, as if it were occupied all the time, regardless of the hour or who was inside. The feeling was always the same, constant, undeniable. Someone was there, observing, silently following every movement. And the most disturbing thing of all is that it didn't seem aggressive. It didn't seem like something that wanted to attack or cause direct fear. It was different from that. It was a presence that seemed to wait, as if it were there for a specific reason, waiting for something or someone. The last time I went back, my friend refused to go, saying she wouldn't set foot in that place again, and this time I didn't try to insist, because deep down I understood perfectly, since a part of me didn't want to go back either. And in that place you didn't question, you just did what you were told. So I went, even against my will, and as soon as I arrived I felt again the same tightness in my chest, only stronger, more immediate, as if the house already knew I was there, as if it recognized me. And when I entered, the silence seemed different. It wasn't empty. It wasn't just the absence of sound. It was expectation. I tried to stay focused on my work, avoiding looking at the room, avoiding the sofa, as if ignoring it could lessen the intensity of the feeling. But it was impossible, because the perception of being watched was constant, almost suffocating, and at various moments I had the clear impression of seeing something moving in the corner of my vision. Quick, subtle movements, but whenever I looked directly there was nothing, absolutely nothing, until I started hearing footsteps, light, slow, coming from the hallway, and the moment I stopped, the footsteps also stopped, as if they had realized I was paying attention. And when I started moving again, they started too, at the same rhythm, synchronized with my movements, as if they were accompanying me, as if someone were walking there with me, invisible. And when I finally turned around, there was no one there. That day, I couldn't finish the work. I made up any excuse, any reason, but I needed to get out of there. And that's when things started to get worse. Because as time went on, it stopped being just strange and became clearer, closer, more personal. I started hearing my name being called, always softly, almost a whisper, as if someone was trying to speak but couldn't use their voice completely, as if they were trapped between wanting to communicate and not being able to. And at other times, I felt light, quick, almost imperceptible touches, as if something touched me and disappeared in the same instant. And the strangest thing of all was that it never seemed aggressive, never seemed threatening. It seemed curious, as if it were trying to understand or remember. Then one day, the worst of all, I was completely alone in the house, late in the afternoon, with the light streaming weakly through the windows, making the atmosphere even darker, and I was in the living room trying to finish as quickly as possible when the television turned on by itself. But this time, it wasn't just static. The image was distorted, failing, as if it were picking up something it shouldn't, and for a single second I saw a face reflected on the screen, but it wasn't mine. It couldn't be, because that face wasn't looking ahead. It was looking directly at me. I froze completely, unable to react, and the next instant the television turned off. The silence returned heavy, almost unbearable, and it was at that moment that I felt something behind me again, closer than ever. And this time I turned around, but there was no one there, and yet the sofa was moving, slowly sinking in front of me, as if someone were sitting there at that very moment. And it was then that I understood, not logically, but in a way impossible to ignore, that it wasn't just a presence, it was reviving something, repeating it, as if it were trying to live a life that never happened, as if that house was all that remained. The last day was the end. I knew that even before I arrived, and when we finished cleaning and were leaving, already outside, I closed the door, went down the steps, and, without knowing exactly why, I looked at the living room window as if something had pulled me, and that's when I saw it. This time it wasn't a shadow, it wasn't my imagination. I clearly saw a person sitting on the sofa, motionless, perfectly visible, with form, with presence, real. And then they slowly turned their head in my direction, and at that moment, I was absolutely certain that I was being watched. At that moment, I understood everything. He never left that house, never lived there, and perhaps never accepted it. And after that day, I never went back, never passed by that road again. But even today, sometimes I still feel that same tightness in my chest, that same feeling of being watched, as if it hadn't completely stayed there, as if a part of it had come with me. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel, because this isn't even close to the worst story I have to tell. And tell me in the comments if you would have the courage to enter that house knowing all this, or if you also felt that there are places that weren't made for us to leave, because some houses don't stay empty. They just